to increase your overall performance. We can go over these in greater details if it's something that you don't understand, but the basics to it is that you have SimCraft, you type /simc, it's an add-on, you type /simc, it gives you a bunch of information, you take that information over to an out-of-game website called RaidBots that you put it into. It'll take a couple minutes and then it'll shit out a link. You take that link back into the game using pawn, type /pawn if you have the add-on, and you put that link in that add-on and it will generate what are called stat weights. Stat weights are the mathematically best and most appropriate optimization of stats that you can have to improve your performance. For instance, we look at I Have a Lisp. Right now, he just did his stat weights because he had a lot of crit. So we were like, okay, you have a lot of crit now. How can we tell if you still want to keep going for crit? We threw that in the blender. The blender generated 10,000 attempts against a patchwork boss, and it spat back out saying, hey, crit's still the best for you. So, now he knows he can keep going for crit. Crit with intelligence being his highest stat weight. And so those are those. Does anyone have any questions about any of those topics?
Can't we access the sim stuff through the Discord?
Not currently.
Okay.
That was SimC, RaidBots, and Pawn, you said?
Yeah. I will throw them in general chat here. You have raidbots.com.
RaidBots is just the website, right? Okay, cool.
Yeah, let me get the actual URL before I type something in and give everybody a virus.
No, it's raidbots.com.
Wouldn't be the first time. Brum.
So those are the 3 resources and some of the biggest resources to improving your performance overall that you can use that are mostly out of the game. Okay. If no one else has any questions, if you guys get these add-ons and you need help with them, all of our officers are equipped to help you figure out how they work. If they're not, they should be, and I'll make sure they are. But if they should be, so if anybody has any questions, feel free to go to any of them. Most of our raiders will also sort of know how they function. So if you just toss it out in guild chat, most likely someone can help you with them. Next, we're going to cover Discord in a little bit more detail, stuff that has nothing to do with in-game performance, aside from being able to actually attend the raid. Most of you have signed up, thank God. But I want to stress, and this is in our rating rules, signing up is very important because it lets me know what we have ahead of time so that I can quickly and efficiently build the team comp and team setup, like throwing the parties together, know what kind of cooldowns we're going to have, blah, 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 blah. Having that there and signing up is very important. And if you don't sign up and you're on and say invite, and I don't see you on the sign up list, I'm kicking you and benching you for the week and saying sign up. It's not hard, it takes 2 seconds. You literally click your class, you get PM'd on Discord, you tell the PM 01, 02, or 03, or 4 if you're a druid. And then that sends it back to Discord and you're signed up. Done. You can even sign up that you're going to be absent without having to say anything, which is super useful. Discord, we also have the Retail WoW Mythics channel, and I think that's it for the important stuff with that. Okay, so the final thing out of game that we're going to cover is the 2 big ones that won't really make such a huge impact until we're actually rating. The first one is, thank you to Fat Goat for doing this consistently, is WoW logs. Any of my Final Fantasy friends, or anyone who's played Final Fantasy to an extent, will know exactly what this is because it's the freaking Jesus of that game. But WoW logs is a website that takes the data for that raid boss So like 5 minutes fighting the Stone Legion, puts it in that, and then compares it to everybody else, and you can see how you perform for that 5 minutes compared to people of the same class and role with an average similar item level. So say I have a Lith, and you're a Frost Mage, and your item level 177, and WoW Outlog says your item level 77, and on this boss you parsed 35 out of 100. That's a green parse. Green is bad. Not bad, but it's like lower than people of the same item level. Which means that at 177, you should be doing better, which gives you the information you need to know to look for other resources to do better. And that's where this other website comes in called WoW Analyzer. So what I do is I take what Fat Goat had and his log, and I put it in the WoW Analyzer, and it generates sorry, my brain just shut off. And I put it in the WoW Analyzer. It'll give me a boss by boss breakdown of every single person and what they did versus what they could have potentially done. So for instance, using I have a Lisp again as an example. Let's say we're doing Stone Legion, which is a boss fight in Nathria. Through the 5 minutes, he only used Icy Vein one time. Icy Veins one time. But he has the potential to use Icy Veins 2 to 3 times. WoW Analyzer will say, hey, you didn't do Icy Veins 2 times. Why not? It'll also say, oh, you missed 6 potential Frostbolt casts. Oh, you missed potential cleave damage or whatever. Like, it'll basically give you an idea of what you could have done. It's not the be-all end-all because it doesn't always super efficiently take in the concept of mechanics and other factors like that. So it's not the be all end all, but it is still an extremely valuable tool to look at and say, oh, you didn't have 100% uptime on Agony or something like that. These are things that'll be more obvious once we're actually doing them and you can look at them and stuff, but great to have in your mind and know that they're going to be there as resources for you to use to improve. Anybody have any questions? No. Okay. Onwards to the part 3 of this glorious raid meeting. The big stuff. All of this is going to be in-game. First and foremost, mechanics. If you can do mechanics, you can do damage. The mechanics are the most important piece of any piece of content that you're going to do in this game, raiding or otherwise. So much so that sometimes it's even okay to do a Gandhi method, which is where you literally just don't do damage and you do mechanics. This isn't as super efficient in World of Warcraft because there's huge breaks in phases and stuff, but it still has the potential to be hugely beneficial. So mechanics. Learn the mechanics. Focus on your responsibilities alone. So if I have tank responsibilities, those are mine. Nobody else, what everybody else is doing doesn't matter. All that matters is what I'm doing and what my responsibilities are. That gets extremely difficult when you're explaining an entire boss fight and suddenly you have the whole boss fight in your head, but not just the pieces that you need to succeed. So you're looking out for things that are actually healer mechanics. So it's really important to digest everything piece by piece, but also focusing on what are exclusively important for you. Let's see. Practicing. Practicing is the next part. I know people probably don't want to do it. I know people with less time hate to do it, but this is extremely important. And it comes down to really enabling you to do good DPS or to have the ability to focus on mechanics while doing good DPS. Sitting at that dummy for an hour every 4 days or so, just pressing your regular rotation and getting that photographic snap memory in there so that you know where your buttons are without even having to look is so important. It's not even about like improving your DPS. It's just about knowing where your abilities are and when to press them and how to press them in like for instance, we're in the middle of a boss fight. Because I have so much practice, I know exactly where my Hand of Freedom and Blessing of Protection are when I need them without even looking at them, even though they're all the way off on the right side of my screen. And also you start to get that mental note of how long their cooldowns are without even having to sit there and stare at them. So practicing is important. Please take the time to occasionally go slap the shit out of a target dummy. It won't kill you. Does anyone have any questions about those? Because we are going to hit the point where we're going to be doing a few in-game things. Okay, so as you can see, I have these markers up here. I'm going to clear them. Where's Fat Goat? Fat Goat! Fat Goat is the raid boss! Fat Goat, come be the raid boss over here.
I always pretend the raid boss is you if it helps.
Ah, that does
So
help.
Fat Goat
Thank
is
you.
our raid boss. So if I can get all of our melee DPS to come up here and start DPSing him.
Hump his leg is what he really meant.
Alright, so all of our ranged DPS, I want you to kind of spread out here around him. Alright, so right now, Fat Goat has a shitload of people surrounding him in melee. This is wrong. Do you want to know why it's wrong? Of course you do. If you didn't, you wouldn't be at this meeting. So why this is wrong is because you guys are doing extremely inefficient usage of the space you're allotted. Spacing is key here. Depending on the boss fight, sometimes you may want to spread out evenly amongst the boss, and sometimes you may want to spread out into a couple of groups. So why don't we go ahead and try, as melee, doing a circle space around the boss when it permits. So go ahead and everybody circle out and spread yourselves out around the boss in a melee formation. So what we're doing here is quickly realizing that it's the most one of the most optimal ways to play a melee character is to spread yourself out and give your friends space. However, what if we have to start dealing with circles that only affect melee? Say 2 people get circles, Garrogue and Dank. You both now have circles. This means that Taiga and Mazel, Scott, and everyone around him are now in danger. What is your initial instinct if you two were to get circles, but everyone else around you don't? It's to move away from the boss. What are you doing now? Nothing. You're not hitting the boss, you're not using your GCDs, you're not DPSing. Alternatively, let's come back in, everybody, with your spacing. Alternatively, instead of you two moving, you can continue uptime and keep your DPS. And instead, we'll have Mazel, Scott, Chaldin, and everybody else actually shift to the other side of the boss, leaving you the space to drop your AoEs and continue DPSing. This is uptime. Uptime is extremely important at doing DPS. For those 5 seconds that Dank and Garrogue are sitting outside of the boss, not doing damage, is 5 seconds is 5 GCDs that they've now missed. For Dankval, that's possibly an entire Templar's verdict. For Garrogue, that's possibly dropping a dot that he needs to have up if he's assassination, or losing out on 4 combo points. Does everybody kind of understand what I'm getting at? Sometimes it's better for the people who aren't affected by the debuff to move to make room for people affected by the debuff to continue doing damage. Now this is going to be a fight-by-fight case. Let's instead say 4 people have the circle. There's actually a boss fight in there where 4 people are going to get the circle. These circles are actually going to drop an ad. So let's say Dank, Garrogue, Chaldan, and Asquith. All 4 of those players now have a circle. You can't efficiently space yourselves out appropriately for that. Instead, what we can optimally do here is say, all right, healers, you're going to end up having to heal a bit more. Most of the melee DPS are going to take damage, but the primary role here is that you have a 4-quadrant spread around the boss, but everyone who doesn't have the circle needs to put themselves in one of the circles. That way they can maintain their DPS without taking too much damage and hurting everybody in the long run. Again, this is a fight-by-fight cases. Sometimes debuffs do more damage to targets who aren't affected by them. We'll play it by ear from there. This goes for range 2. You have your ABCs. Always be casting. If you have the ability to do something, do it. There is almost no reason that you should not always be pushing a button unless there's complete downtime. One great example of this is when we were doing Wrathrion on Heroic in the last raid tier, I was on my Hunter. I knew I could fit in 3 more GCDs and disengage back and make it to safety without getting killed. Now I often would drop down to like 30% HP, so the healers had to heal me, but they had the opportunity to because they had more than enough time at that point to heal me before any more damage would be going out. But that comes from knowing mechanical knowledge. That's why mechanics are always so important at doing efficient DPS. So, you got your mechanics, you can figure out when you can greed. Greed and uptime go hand in hand. And greeding is when you sacrifice HP or risk taking damage that you know isn't going to kill you, that a healer can cover without expending too much risk. If I can take that AoE damage and it means I can keep DPSing, take that AoE damage. As long as it doesn't punish your healers too much. Any questions? Okay, so the final really big thing here in this topic of uptime greed is the final one, spacing. Sometimes if you guys have raided with me before, you'll know I have various ways to call out certain mechanics. For instance, I'll call soft spread. A soft spread is very different than a hard spread. A hard spread is where y'all bitches need to like fucking get out of here, go to Albuquerque. A soft spread, which is far more common, is spreading out to the point where you're overlapping circles like a Venn diagram, but you're not overlapping bodies. So for instance, if I say soft spread, you have Scott, myself, and Dankfall, and the circle is about the size of like from here to here. That's the size of the circle. I'm in the middle of it. So Scott would go here where the diamond is. His circle is still overlapping my circle. He's had to move less. He's had to adjust less, which means he has a higher uptime, which translates to more DPS. All of these things go hand in hand. Spatial awareness is super important for each individual mechanic, and knowing when you can get away with certain things. It's extremely important for melee. And melee, remember, your first initial instinct should not always be run away. A great example of this one is last night I was doing a Spires of Ascension. On the third to last boss, the big golem guy, if you've done it, puts a massive circle around a DPS player or the healer. I was in melee with a melee DPS, and they would get it, and they would run away. Yet there was more than enough space for him and I to continue DPSing without him having to sacrifice his movement to move away because there was no one else around him to take that dot. That's a huge, example of how that functions appropriately. So again, uptime, greed, and spacing. Always try to do your ABCs. Always be casting. Those are extremely important factors into being a successful raider. Does anyone have any questions about that? Okay. So no one has any questions about any of those topics. We're going to move right on to the final and the most important thing that if you guys could hear anything about this meeting and like really take it in your head, it's this: self-awareness. Being cognizant of what you as an individual player are doing in a raid at all times is so important. If you lack self-awareness, if you lack the ability to make decisions for yourself in the moment and always rely on your raid leader or raid leaders to guide you, you will come to a point where eventually you will fail. And there's no question about that. So, you go about your daily routine in WoW, making the decisions of what to do every day yourself. What you do, how you deal with your time, even being a part of this raid group is a self-aware decision. Just make sure to extend that to your raid environment. Do not hold hands with the people who are calling mechanics and things out. If you know a mechanic is coming up and you know what to do, by all means, start moving over to where you need to be beforehand. And that way you can really increase what you're doing as an individual throughout the entire course of everything. And this extends to all facets of raiding and even real life to an extent. But going out and doing the research on the boss fights, making sure you're ready to go for raid night, showing up as you guys did tonight 10 minutes ahead of time and being ready to go, on a whim, quickly showing up, and even just communicating with the people who are driving this machine, letting them know what's going on with you, whether you're attending, whether you're not. I mean, self-awareness is literally can cover everything I just talked about. Knowing if you're doing bad DPS, knowing if you're doing good DPS, where to stand, when to move, all of these things can be summed up to one single ideal, and that's self-awareness. Is really think about what you're doing and what you need to bring to something that you've chosen as your hobby. And if you follow those guidelines, we will for sure be extremely successful throughout this upcoming raid tier. And with that, I will close out saying if any of the other officers have anything to say, by all means, feel free. And then at the end, I will do an introduction of all of our important key members who are playing the tank and healing roles, and then open up the floor once again for questions, comments, etc., and then we will end the meeting. So if officers have anything else to say, please, by all means.
Goat, do you have anything?
Yeah, just say thanks for James for putting this together, and thanks everybody for attending. Obviously, we've grown quite a bit since we created the guild almost like a year ago in BFA, and it's great to see so many new and returning faces here to raid. And those that have raid with us before, we have fun, but we also get shit done at the same time. So I'm very excited, and I think everyone else is very excited to get into the new content. And thanks again, James and the officers and everybody in the guild. And here's to having a whole bunch of fun going forward.
Mangy, you have anything?
Yeah, I don't know how garbage I sound right now, so hopefully someone can jump in and do it. But do we want to touch on like consumables, or like Lego expectations going forward?
Yeah, I was going to cover that at the very end, because that's sort of like raid prep stuff.
I was just going to comment
Yeah, that's all I
on
really had.
the raid signups can't be more important. Discord's a very, very easy tool. Goat has put together a lot of good stuff. Raid signups are very, very easy. You literally go to the upcoming raid channel and you click on what role, it'll whisper you, and you just feed it what you want, what you're going to do. Now, James is going to go over what roles are already filled. So really, if you're not on the list for healing and tanking, then you are DPSing. So just know that going forward, that it is basically a requirement to sign up so we know who's coming, like James said at the very, very beginning. Go ahead, James.
Okay. With that, I'm gonna go over some really key important members of the team. Everybody is equally important, obviously. Like none of this would function without everybody, but I really wanted everybody to know who your tanks and your healers are, because these are the people who will be doing mythics and stuff with you too. That way you guys have names to roles. Your 2 tanks. Your first tank is Mangy. He's playing a Death Knight this round. He is extremely good at what he does. Don't let anybody lie to you. Your next tank is going to be me. I'm a protection paladin. I also off-play healer. So if you need a healer or a tank for anything, you can always hit me up. If I'm available, I'll go. Your three primary healers. And when I say primary, I mean people who will always consistently be playing the healing role in the raid, is Scott Monk, who is our raid lead. And all that means is that he's really the one who helps me communicate with the other healers to know kind of what talents they should have and what cooldowns they should be using. Mazel, he's going to be our primary tank healer. He is playing a Holy Paladin. And Amishur, he is our obligatory raid healer. He's playing Shaman this go around. You have our 2 flex healers. Our first flex healer is she's not here tonight, but because she's going through some stuff in real life and she's working on getting to max level and stuff. But eventually, our first flex healer is Caroline. She will be playing Shadow into Holy. And our second flex healer is Kurasutufa. Cross. He is also playing Shaman. He's Elemental first, Resto second. What I mean by flex healers is that these are players who will shift into healing roles when they are needed. For our flex tanks, I believe we have Asquith and Chalden, I want to say. Correct me if I'm wrong. And so those are all players who are comfortable playing primary roles on demand. Next, we're going to go over the raid expectations for week 1. Week 1, you are welcome to go into the raid completely blind the first week. Usually I would do the first 2 weeks, but we're going to be taking a break for 4 weeks after the first raid. So every week after that, the 2 raids will be optional to show up to, because they are primary holidays for most of us Americans and pretty sure most other people. The second week of January is when raids will then go back into a mandatory state. So this comes back to what Nubu and I were saying. Raid signups are extremely important. They will still keep going out every week. If you are not going, hit not going. If you are going, please sign up so I know if we have the numbers to raid that week. I do choose to dedicate my time to this, as do the other officers, but this is still a game. We still pay our subscriptions, just like you guys do. Please don't take advantage of our time, and let us know what's going on. Let's see. With that, does anyone have any questions about the things I just talked about? Because we're about to go into raid legendaries and consumables. Oh, we're done with in-game stuff, so people are welcome to evaporate if they'd like to, or stay here to hang out while we finish up the meeting.
Oh, you mean in game? We can move around.
Yeah, you can do whatever. I showed you guys what I wanted to in game.
Please ask questions, because I guarantee someone else has the same question.
Yeah, in case you didn't hear Mainchi, please ask questions. I guarantee someone else will ask or wants to ask the same question.
And we are going to go into legendary stuff and consumables. That's one of the biggest topics for right now, but anything else is welcome too.
Okay, I'll take that as a no. Going right into consumables first, because it's a bit easier of a topic. Consumables. This is Flask Food and item buffs, I want to say. First of all, flasks. Flasks are the same. Once we can, we will be doing cauldrons for the guild. For food, we do already, thanks to Beefy, have our first tier of
Feast.
feasts getting made. However, we will not be using feasts right away. The reason for this is that it's inefficient knowing that we're just going to keep dying to use feasts. So make sure to sort of invest in your own consumables. And once we get closer to clears, that's when we're going to start throwing down feasts. Finally, you have item buffs. These are new to Shadowlands. And with them being new, they're actually extremely important. For our physical damage dealers, you have blunt and sharpening stones, shaded blunt stones and shaded sharpening stones. These are attack power boosts to each weapon individually. So if you use swords or daggers, sharpening stone. If you use maces or any form of blunt weapon, weight stone. Having these is extremely important. They do stack with enchants, so please use them. We are going to try to keep the guild vault raid tab full with them, but if they aren't, out of pocket them. They are expected. For casters, you have your oils. These are they're actually the same exact thing as the weight stone and the sharpening stone, just for casters. You have the embalmer's oil, which is healing, and I don't remember the other name of the other one, but you have two different weapon oils. Thank you, Amateur. Shadow core oil. Okay. Both of these things are also mandatory to have. Finally, you have your armor kits. These are also mandatory at first. The armor kits are less mandatory once we get more gear, but at the start of the raid tier, I'm just going to put it out there. At the start of the raid tier, they are completely mandatory because they give you 20 additional stamina for 2 hours, which
16.
is alone 16. Thank you. 16 additional stamina for 2 hours. I know that sounds like very little, but when you're already curving the line of how much HP you can have to survive, that 16 stamina can go a long way. These are the armor kits. And the final expectation is people are expected to be doing the maw every day. Not every day, but they are expected to be progressing their maw. Why? Because eventually you're going to be able to put sockets in your equipment. Like back in 8.3, there's an item that you can purchase once you get enough rep for Stygia to put sockets in your equipment. And these are going to be hugely important going forward, especially once we get into like the purple gems and stuff. So just keep that in mind. That the maw, it's a bit of a slog right now and doesn't feel super rewarding to do, but just keep going. It gets way better.
Dailies in the maw. Sorry, the dailies in the maw are actually really, really easy. But just if you need to group up with people because you can die really easy and you don't want to die too much in the maw. So
yes. All right. Does anyone have any questions about consumables?
So pre-pots, we are using those at discretion or not until Mythic?
Pre-pots will be used on all content once we're closer to farm. Or
Okay.
once we're closer to kill.
So
it's the same.
pre-pots
Go ahead.
aren't really a thing because it doesn't reset your cooldown. So you definitely we're going to be using them, but it's not like you're using 2 pots per fight.
Oh, okay, cool.
Oh, they
So
changed
Are we
it?
using,
Yes.
are we
One per
using the
fight.
one for the stat or the one that does damage?
Depends on your class. That's something
Yep.
you'll have to look up for yourself. Some classes may actually want to use the Phantom Fire. Some classes may want to use the raw stats. It really depends.
Yep.
It's something you'd have to go to icveins.com to find out. Or any other like in-game, out-of-game resource that you use to determine.
Are there any class leads that would
No.
be in the know?
We don't really have class leads. It's definitely goes back to that like self-awareness type of thing where like it's super easy for you to find out yourself. You just go to the website, go to your class, go to consumables, and it'll tell you. Obviously, you can ask for help. Please don't be afraid to ask for help if you don't understand something, but at least try yourself first so you get into the function of like figuring out how to do it.
In particular, Icy Veins, a lot of people look down upon it, but a lot of people look up to it. The people that put Icy Veins together are hardcore raiders. They've been doing it for a long time, and a lot of times they're not steering you in the wrong direction. And there is a ton of information on each of your tabs in there within your class. It'll tell you everything that's important to be paying attention to. That's at least a good start. And then exactly what James is saying, as you grow with your class and you start to learn how to raid better and you start to get into it, you'll start to know what's best for you specifically when it comes to things. And Icy Veins will become then more of your background knowledge. And then you will start to progress with, like your question there, got it had, do I use int or a phantom fire potion? Well, sometimes you might use int, sometimes you might use the other one. It just kind of depends on what your class ends up being. So
Yeah, there's a lot of information about a lot of things we can't actually access in game. For instance, the potion of Phantom Fire. We don't actually know what the proc rate of that is, or even how or its internal cooldown, or anything like that, which heavily affects how useful it will be. A great example of this is in Legion. There was a potion that was insanely overpowered, but nobody used it because they didn't know, because potions like that normally were really awful. But once the information got around that it was super OP because somebody finally did the math on it and like figured out it had a huge proc rate and it happened all the time and it was super strong, everybody started using it. Everyone's DPS spiked like thousands. So, we really don't know. That's definitely something you can only actually find out of game. We're here to provide the resource. Not often always to do the research for you, but we can help. So, please take the time to at least try to do it yourself first. And if you're still freaking confused, because that happens, especially to me all the time, I'm a very confused person, then seek more help. Any more questions about consumables?
More of a statement than a question. We will have some of these consumables, but everybody needs to be using them wisely. So we're not grabbing full stacks of stuff. We're not grabbing even like 10 of something. If you're going to think about how long a raid is, I think it lasts through death, right? And I think they're like 2 hours long sometimes. So at least the armor kits are. So if you need them, you're going to be grabbing 3 at most for one raid night, right?
Yep.
So stuff like that. Just think about it and then use the consumables as needed by stocking up on it yourself, because that's taking away from your other raid members if the guild's providing it.
Yep. Last call for questions on consumables. They should have a list. They should. If they don't, that sucks. But they should.
Yeah, I think they should. I don't know either. Yeah.
The weapon stones definitely do, so they should.
Okay, then the olos do. Yeah.
Okay. Our final topic of tonight, which is an extremely complicated one, mostly because of how stressful it is for the crafting core to organize this. So we're gonna really need everybody's help. I'm gonna lead off with saying Legendaries are coming next week. You can get your first one next week. Level 1 isn't actually that difficult to get. However, it becomes extremely expensive to to upgrade them and to continue making more. So the crafting core and the officer have decided the best functional way going forward for us to handle this for the raid group and to make it fair for everybody is every guild member, or every raid member will get at least one level 1 legendary funded by the guild. So if you know what your best in slot is and you have the memory you need to get your legendary, let the crafting core know, and we will put the materials together to get that piece to you. If you don't know what your best in slot legendary is and you need help researching that, reach out to the crafting core as well, specifically myself or Naboo, for legendary specific stuff. because we can quickly find out which ones are your best ones. And if he can't, I can. We will not be funding non-best in slot legendaries. If it's a Torghast legendary or a legendary that you just want for fun or anything like that, we will not be funding those. We will be only funding your best in slot legendaries. And there are usually people can pick between 3. So, this is the culmination of everybody investing into the guild bank and putting their materials in there and stuff like that. So, if you know what your best in slot is and you know what piece you want it on, it's fair. If you already have the Greaves, then you're welcome. Like, you have the hardest piece to get. Like, what legendary you pick is up to you.
For legendaries, the WoW head links for your class appear to be really well written out. So if you actually go to WoWhead under classes and then go click on the legendary tab, in particular, I know for druids, it literally says, go for this legendary first, go for this legendary second. This is the top tier for single target in raids. This is, secondary. It tells you which slot you should be putting it in. It tells you what secondary stats you should be choosing. All this is going to be on you to learn. We will start to try to double check and make sure that you're following through with your best in slot, but the ones that are being provided by the guild will kind of just go through Wowhead right now to look to make sure, or we'll use Icy Veins if there's a question on that. And, that's what we're going to be providing. So. Go ahead, James.
So what I'm saying right now isn't an invite for everybody to just start spamming the crafter core, the officers. Like, I have this legendary. I need this piece. You know what I mean? Let's try to create an organized space to get this through. This is where like us working together and communicating is super important. So if you know what you want or know at least what you need, and you want help getting the first piece to get it, please place in a PM to one of the crafting core or one of the officers on Discord so we have a recollection of it, not in a whisper, because those get lost real easy. Drop us a DM so that we can put it in our spreadsheet. On Discord specifically. With that being said, you guys have been doing a fan-fucking-tastic job so far with keeping supplies into the guild bank so far. And I'm so thankful. Like, I really want to express thanks to everybody who's been donating to the guild vault. We are a team. This is our hobby. This is something we all want to do together. So please continue to do so, especially going forward. The reason for this is that legendaries function as this. You can make your first piece. For instance, let's say I have my plate legs, the Shadowghast Greaves. I have that piece in specific. It says it's level 1. When you make a level 1 legendary, it comes out at item level 195. It requires 1250 soul ash to make it. Now, let's say I have 1250 soul ash again, which you will on the 3rd week. I can now upgrade my Greaves from item level 195 to item level 203, I think? Something like that. Anyway, I can upgrade the item level to 203. Now, this upgrade doesn't increase... this upgrade does not increase the effect of the legendary, the memory. This legendary does, however, increase the stats. So it's not something that's super duper mandatory to get right away, especially if you don't have the funds or if we don't have the ability to craft them. The reason this gets so complicated is to upgrade to craft a level 2 Shadowghast Greave. We have to first craft. How many times does 5 go into 75?
15 times.
15 times. We have to craft 15 Greaves.
Rank 1 Greaves, yeah.
For one single crafter. to be able to craft a level 2 version. That is, let's see, 20.
It's not huge in cost, but it is something that we wanted to focus on so we can end up providing to everybody over time the correct rank that they'll want when we start to upgrade. And that's why we're trying to focus it into one crafter at a time. So now feel free, if you want to take it upon yourself to do your own thing and pay for it yourself, you don't have to use any of the guild stuff if you don't want to, but we are trying to provide this at least on a timely basis over the course of the whole first raid. At least we don't know if the ranks are going to go up or not after rank 4. I really don't know, but I would assume they will once the eye levels start climbing. So it might end up becoming more of a colossal effort of having that one guild crafter supply it all.
And our crafter core that we have selected are people who are dedicated to the guild and who will be sticking around. So we do not need to be worried about them ditching us with having like level 3 ability to craft shadow gas greaves, for instance. So that is not something that we need to worry about. But going forward, so you have to craft 15 level 1s. Who knows how many level 2s? Probably still 15. Hopefully just 15. Same thing into level 3, all the way to level 4. So we did some math, and if you were to buy a legendary, a level 4 legendary, once they become available on week 5, right out the gate, on your own terms with just gold, you would, on average, be spending about $100 in real life money. Tokens gonna be selling like crazy, bro. So that really puts an emphasis on like consolidating our materials as a team into our prime crafters to make sure that we can level those up as much as we can to really keep people getting upgraded.
So for instance, right now, since it is launch and we're starting to see a lot of things hit the auction house, two or 3 days ago, I think rank 1s were like 225k gold, which is just insane because of how easy they are to craft. But now, as of today, I checked, there's rank 4 is already being populated on there. Now remember, this is the base item that you need to upgrade your legendary. And you're going to need a rank 1, a rank 2, a rank 3, and a rank 4 to do that. To craft your legendary, it takes you combining your power that you've also looted off of a boss. You have to look at your class where they all drop. If you see my post in Raid Chat, I linked where it's at. If everybody goes to their adventure guide, you can go, you hit Shift J, and it has suggested content, dungeons, raids, and powers. Has all of your powers listed. If you hover over them, it tells you exactly where they drop, what slot that they're rune carved for, and what it does. So you can target that fairly easily. Since I haven't done it yet, it's my assumption that you're going to take Soul Ash that you get out of Torghast. You're going to take the base rank item that you need and your power and combine it in with the rune carver. Once you do that, you'll have your X item level legendary. So, but like right now, since like a couple days ago, rank 1s were at like 200 something K gold. You just give it a couple more days, and now the rank 1s are like 90k gold or 60k gold. I mean, they're starting to drop in price really fast. And now there's a couple rank 4s in Alex House that are back to that 225k gold thing. But that's why if we focus on this, it's not going to cost us that much at all, as long as we have a good path for everybody to get their stuff.
Yep. So big TLDR of all of that is you help your guild, the guild helps you. Help us invest in you guys as raiders and guild members, and we're all set to succeed. Gather mats, donate them, and we'll make sure to do our best to communicate and collab together to get you guys what you need. With that being said, we're going to end the meeting here. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to direct them in DMs or anything like that to Naboo or myself. because in fact that's hitting max size on the video.
In Discord, send it in Discord.
Yeah, in Discord. Don't whisper. Whispers get lost. With that being said, Acolytes, hear me. On your arboreal frogs, the future is unknown and dangerous. Soon we will venture to Castle Nathria and progress as far as we can. And hopefully, with at least 20 of you, we will go into Mythic and get the shit slapped out of us. So remember this day. Remember what we have spoken of and this extremely long drawn out meeting that I apologize for. And with that, I set you free to go and continue gearing up and doing whatever it is that you do with your free time. Be free, my frogs!
Frog race.
Haru!
Haru!
I don't even know what that means.
No one knows what it means, but it's provocative.
No, it's not. It's
Gets
gross.
the people going.